الله الرحمن الرحيم ثم كان من الذين آمنوا وتوسوا بالصبر وتوسوا بالمرحمة أولئك أصحاب الميمنة. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Holy Quran, Surah Balad, the believers who advise one another with patience and with mercy, kindness, these are the people of the right hand. So these past few nights we were talking about the rights of the believers. We talked about brotherhood. We talked about one of the rights, forgiving each other's mistakes. Other one, giving him hand when he is about to fall. The next one, treasuring the friendship. Tonight's one we'll talk about is persisting and giving good advice to your brother. So we see that in this verse, Allah tells us to advise each other with steadfastness or patience, and we have to persist in giving good advice to each other. As we see that our fifth Imam, Imam Bakr alayhi salam, he says, a believer should advise his believing brothers. A believer's right over the other believers is to be sincerely advised. So it's from one of our rights that we owe each other, that we have to give good advice to each other. And this giving good advice, it comes from a place of love that we have for each other as a family. We said believers are as brothers, so we're as one family. So when we advise someone, it means that we really want good for that person. We don't want anything bad, so we want to give them good advice. We care about them. We don't want to see them get off track. For example, we see one of the little small kids here, they're running and they see a knife on the floor. And they grab that knife. And any one of us, we will go and we'll stop them and we'll say, no, don't touch that knife. It's bad. It's dangerous. It'll give you harm, Don't play with that. It's not a good thing. So we'll advise that kid because we know that they don't know any better, and then that thing will cause them some harm. We don't want to see the child get harmed. We care about their safety. We care about their well-being and all that. But somehow later on in life, all of this caring for the other fades away as they grow up. It's mostly used just for telling children, do this or don't do that, don't touch the stove, don't pick up the knife. But when they get older, we feel like, okay, they're on their own. They're old enough, they should know better, and we don't advise. But if we're in a position where we know something's dangerous for them and they don't realize it, maybe they are still like that child who doesn't know the knife is bad for them. They see it as something shiny and something nice, but we know that is dangerous. We should advise them and tell them. A lot of times, these people are unaware of the dangers of what's in front of them. They see it as something nice. They say, oh, I'm going to go give that a try, but in reality, that thing will cause them harm. Maybe it won't cause them physical harm, but it could cause them spiritual harm. Maybe they partake in that thing, and we could have advised them, don't do it, but we let them go and say, they'll figure it out on their own. They'll learn their lesson. They'll do it. They'll get in trouble. They won't do it again. And we let them go on their way. But that thing that they're doing, it could cause spiritual harm to themselves. For example, the one who drinks alcohol, maybe it looks good to them and it looks like they're going to have a good time. But in reality, the spiritual effects of that, for example, the prayers are not accepted for 40 days. It doesn't mean they get a break from making salat for 40 days, but they don't get the reward for those prayers for 40 days. Or the person who eats haram meat. We think, okay, what's the difference between a Chick-fil-A sandwich and, a halal sandwich? They're both chicken, is no big deal. But in reality, we see there's a very big deal in between these two, where Allah has told us not to eat the meat that's not slaughtered in His name. And we have riwayat, for example, that say that the angels curse the one as soon as they take the morsel of haram meat, it goes to in their mouth, they swallow, angels do la'na. But we don't see it. We say, okay, not a big deal, it's just a piece of chicken, But if we can advise the person, maybe they don't know. We tell them, okay, brother, sister, what you're doing, you don't see the effects of it, but it is something serious. For example, lying. Lying is under the category of greater sin. But we have different levels of this lying. One lie, it doesn't affect anyone, it only hurts yourself. You will get greater sin for lying, and maybe it doesn't hurt anyone. Small, we can say like some small lie, if we can say it that way. Then other one, maybe someone tells a lie, it can hurt their property, can take property from someone else. You testify falsely for someone, they lose their property. Another one, maybe the person loses their life. It can be even greater. Another one, maybe they lied on a person, they go to jail for the rest of their life because of that lie. Another lie can mislead the whole entire, nation. We can see what happened with Christianity. One person tells lie and changes religion. How many people deviated, followed that lie? Or we also have examples in our Islam. We see how people lied against Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, took his right, and then what happens and why we're in this big mess that we're in today. So we see that the person is unaware. We find someone, they're unaware of the dangers that they're in, like this small child, and they're unaware of the misguidance that they are doing. And if we are in the position where we can help them, we should help them. This is one of the rights that we owe each other. Maybe we're stronger in one area, and the other person is weak. And maybe they are strong in an area that we are weak. This is how we come together, we complement each other. We see someone is weak in this area, we grab their hand and say, we'll help you overcome that, what you're dealing with. Maybe I am dealing with something else, they can help me overcome this. So we complement each other. We have to try to help each other, support each other, not ignore each other. So a lot of time we can see someone is doing something, and we just ignore them and we say, let it run its course. They'll figure it out and all this. But when we look at what our Imam says, our seventh Imam, Imam Qadam alayhi salam, he said, cursed is the one who does not admonish and advise his brother. Our sixth Imam says, any believer who does not make an effort to help fulfill his religious brother's needs and he doesn't advise him has committed a treason with Allah and his Prophet. So it's very serious. We should help each other, advise each other. After Allah tells us in that verse we mentioned in the beginning to advise with patience, He shows us how to advise, how to call people to the straight path. He says, وَتَوَسَّ بِالْمَرْحَمَةِ, advise with mercy, kindness. We have to treat our brothers in faith like they are our own family. We have to love them as part of our family. If we see them making mistakes, we tell them out of a place of love that, brother, I think there's a better way that you can do this. Your intention is good, but you make some mistake here, and I want to try to help you. We have to advise them in a gentle way, nice way, not in a harsh way. We have to actually wish for their guidance. We're hoping that the best for them, and not do it as some people, they use this minbar or the pulpit as a whipping post, and they're just up there every day on the community, all the time. They can't wait till they go and they're whipping people from there. But it's not like this. We have to do it out of a place of love. As we tell our children too, we say, don't do this. I love you, so I don't want you to make a mistake. I don't want to see you get into hardship. I don't want this to happen to you. We have to do this with our brothers and sisters as well. We shouldn't try to make ourselves seem better than the person when we are advising them. A lot of times they advise people, but it's with arrogance. They say, I have done all of these things all my life, and you just started and you don't really know, and maybe I tell you, but they advise you in a way to make you feel bad, like you feel lesser than them. We should do it like a caring father does for their children. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Sometimes we see them committing a sin, someone, and just because we haven't done that sin that we are advising them about, we have to remember that we also have done some sort of sin, that we would want someone, if they were to come advise us, we would want them to come advise us in a nice way, in a gentle way. As we mentioned the other night before, we see how when Allah sent Musa and Harun to Fir'aun. He told him to advise him in a kind way, in a nice way, with kindness, with gentleness. Even if this is for the worst tyrant, we mentioned, this is for the worst tyrant of the time. How can about us? None of us are as bad as Fir'aun. We should advise each other kindly and gently. We should advise them in a private way. We should pull them to the side and advise them. Don't advise them in public. You see someone is making a mistake, we shouldn't just wait till everyone is around and call them out on that mistake, because it's a type of humiliation, and it's the type, if you do it publicly, it's not a good akhlaq. We have to pull them to the side and try to help them privately. And we get this from our 11th Imam. He says, whoever admonishes his brother secretly has decorated him, or adorned him. He did something nice for him. And the one who admonishes him openly and publicly has vilified or rebuked him. It is not nice to do this in public. So Allah says in Quran, He says, كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر وتؤمنون بالله. You are the best nation that existed amongst mankind. You command people to do good, and you forbid them from doing evil, and you believe in Allah. When we look at what Fatima Zahra alayhi salam, she explained this verse from Quran. She said the reasoning behind enjoining what is right and forbidding what is wrong. She says Allah calls commanding good and forbidding evil for the amendment and the correction of society and for the general public. Imagine if we look at society today and no one advised each other, no one gave each other good advice, no one told people to do good things, and no one told people to forbid them from evil things. They all just kept to themselves and minded their business and ignored each other, and no one dealt with anyone. They didn't care about each other at all. What kind of society will we be in? What kind of community is that? This is definitely not the aim that human beings were created for. But unfortunately, with all of the bad things that we see that are happening in society, they're happening all the time. People get more desensitized towards these acts. When we see something bad happen, we don't even feel anything anymore. We say, oh, well, it's normal. This is welcome to America, or welcome to here, or whatever the city's name is. They say this happens all the time. So we get numb, and eventually we start caring less. When we see people making mistakes, we don't even care anymore. At one time it affected us, but now it doesn't affect us at all. So we have to remember that what our aim is, what our purpose is, that we should be helping each other. Someone will ask you, say, well, what benefit does it do if I advise someone or I just mind my own business? I just let them go, We have this attitude. It's, I don't know here, but it's very prevalent in Northeast, New York, DC, these big cities, Boston, they say, oh, I just mind my business, I don't care what happens outside. I'm not going to see anything, say anything, not going to help anybody. It's only me, just thinking of myself. So what's the difference if I advise or I just stay to myself? Imam Ali alayhi salam says, whoever stops physical, verbal, or spiritual enjoining what is good and forbidding what is wrong, they are like a living corpse amongst the living. They are like a corpse that seems to be alive. Our fifth Imam says that Allah revealed to Prophet Shu'aib, Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allah revealed to Prophet Shu'aib. He said that I'll punish 1,000 of your people. Allah revealed to Prophet Shu'aib. He says, I will punish 1,000 of your people 40,000 of these are the worst ones. They are doing everything bad. They deserve to be punished. So he said, I'm punishing 100,000. 40,000 are the worst, but 60,000 of them actually do good deeds. So Shu'aib was like, how come? I understand that you are punishing these 40,000. They definitely deserve it. But what about these other 60,000? How come they are being punished? Allah told Shu'aib, he said, these ones who did good deeds, these 60,000 people, they associated with the sinners and they did not become angry because of my wrath. Meaning they just justified it. They didn't care anymore. They're seeing people doing haram and they're okay with it. And they're hanging out with them and they're also letting them do haram. They don't say anything. They don't say anything by their... We see evil, we should try to change it with our hand. We cannot change it with our hand, we should say something about it, change it with our tongue. If we cannot do that, at least the lowest amount is we should hate it in our heart. But these ones, they were not doing anything. They said, you know, whatever, they're living their life, okay, you know, that's fine with me. And they dealt with them. So, firstly, the first thing when I said what's the difference? Ignoring them or advising them. The first thing we are abandoning one of the rights that we owe our fellow Muslim brother. Our seventh Imam, he says, I inform you that the wajib, the obligatory most right of your brother is that you do not hide anything or conceal anything from him that is beneficial to him, that is useful to him for his dunya or his akhirah. So if you have something that you see him going through something, you can benefit him. You have the tools, you have the knowledge, you have the advice, you can give it to him. You have to give it to him. Whether it is for something dunya or something for his akhirah. If you see him going astray, maybe he's doing good in dunya, in his job and work and all these things. You see he's making a mistake for his akhirah. He's messing up. He's not caring about it. He's letting more work overcome his obligations. You advise him because you don't want to see any harm go to him. Secondly, we could be letting society down by not advising this person. And then this person could go on later and cause greater problems, greater corruption. For example, we talked about Abu Dhar one night. We said that he came from a tribe of highway robbers. These people were making a lot of problems for people on the road to travel. Imagine if the Prophet didn't teach him, he didn't take him and was kind to him, he didn't give him advice. They would have been doing the same thing. It could have gotten even worse for them. They could have committed more acts of transgression. But the Prophet took him and said, you know, I'm going to teach you about Islam. He accepted Islam. He went back and taught his whole tribe Islam. All of them became Muslims. And Abu Dhar became one of the great people in society because he reformed himself due to the teachings of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wa ala and Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. So much so that the Prophet said, if you want to see taqwa of Isa, then look at Abu Dhar. This is second thing. Third thing is that we would miss out on the thawab, the reward that the Prophet said that he said there's nothing more valuable than to advise and guide your fellow brother or sister in faith. Our eighth Imam says Allah will take pity and be merciful to the servant who resurrects or revives our affairs. So they asked the Imam, how can we do that? He said that to learn our knowledge and teach it to the people. So if we want the mercy of Imam is praying for mercy for these people who do this action. So it shows if we want to be included in this dua of the Imam, that we will receive mercy under his dua, that we should learn the knowledge and teach it to people. About Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Teaching it to people, it also includes advising people, calling people towards Islam, instructing them with teachings of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, by our words, by our actions. And we said last night that the sixth Imam says that a mu'min, a believer, is the real brother of a believer. He's his eye and he's his guide. See, he will help him see things clearly, and he is his guide. The guide takes you by your hand and shows you where to go when you are lost. So we see that our brother is lost and he's wandering here and there. we take him by his hand and pull him back to the straight path, inshallah. Allah says in Quran, we read it all the time, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, wal-Asr, Inna al-insana la fi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa amalu as-salihat, wa tawassaw bil-haqq, wa tawassaw bil-sabr. We say, by the passing of the time, Allah says, verily all mankind is in loss, all of them. Illa alladhina amanu, except those who believe. Wa amalu as-salihat, they do righteous deeds. Wa tawassaw bil-haqq, they advise with the truth. Wa tawassaw bis-sabr, they advise with patience. We see that in the beginning verses of this topic. In the beginning we said wa tawassaw bil-marhama. Allah tells us to advise with mercy. And we see in this wa tawassaw bil-haqq, to advise with truth. And we also see that he says wa tawassaw bis-sabr, advise with patience. So when we advise people, we should always tell them what's best for them, what's true, what's correct. We have to show them, the truth. Sometimes the truth is hard, sometimes it is difficult, but we should still speak the truth in a nice way, the best way that we can, but we still have to, we cannot sugarcoat it, as we say, and don't tell them. We need to say the truth. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alayhi, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. He said, he told Salman al-Muhammadi, speak the truth or tell the truth, even though it may be bitter. Even though it's bitter, we still have to say the truth. But we have to do it in a nice way, not an insulting way or a condescending way or a disrespectful way. Because we see in Quran, Allah says, invite to the way of your Lord with wisdom and kind advice, and only debate with them in the best manner. We see, ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن. So advise with wisdom, kind advice, and debate with them in a nice way, the best way. He says, your Lord alone knows best who has strayed from his way and who is rightly guided. So Allah tells us to advise with sabr, to advise with patience. And we look at the duty of advising each other, it's very difficult. It's very hard. It's very tiresome to advise people all the time. At times, someone can get so frustrated with giving advice to people that, he gives up on his people being guided at all, maybe. He says, I've told these people so many times, I just give up. I forget about it. I want to go retire and live on top of a mountain somewhere and forget about all the people. They don't listen in this thing. But we have to look at Nabi Nuh alayhi salam. How many times did he tell these people? He taught them for 950 years. In the end, only a handful of people came. Most of us, we would have given up on the first year. And some of us, maybe we gave up on the first day. They said, man, forget this. This is not for me. I can't do it. But Nabi Nuh, 950 years. Imagine that. So sometimes we'll face bad attitude. Sometimes we'll face rejection. Sometimes people will make fun of us. Sometimes people will curse at us even. But the prophets of Allah, they faced way worse than this. They dealt with difficult people their whole life. So advising other people takes a lot of patience, a lot of determination. And we have to be persistent in this. I'll give a story. One of the ulama, one of the Sayyid, his father was Marja, and he said that, he told me a story about his father. He said that this youth used to come to his center all the time, and come to the maktab and come sit and have discussions. But unfortunately, the communism became very prevalent, and he left Islam and he went towards the communism. And the Sayyid would see him every day. He would say, Assalamu alaikum to the shopkeeper while he walked through the bazaar. But the youth would turn his face. He wouldn't answer him at all. So he said, okay. He walks by again. He said, every day, salam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. The guy says nothing. This continues on for 1 year. Sayyid is always giving him salam. But this youth doesn't say anything. And then after 1 year, he says, I feel ashamed. He says, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah, Sayyidina. He replies to him because he persisted. And after 1 year, he said, this Sayyid he never gave up on me, and he gave me salam for 1 entire year. Even though I was rude to him and I turned my face away from him and all this. You know, for us, we give salam one time. Don't give salam back. It's who do you think he is? You know, they don't want to answer me. You think he's better than me? What's his problem? You want to see me outside? You know, you have a problem? You know, this is, you know, we think like that right away after one time, you know. I mean, it's happened, you know, but Sayyid, he said, no. And this is a good example, you know, from Sayyid Muhammad al-Shirazi. He brought this youth back because he didn't give up on him. He gave an example of, you know, this is an example of persistence. So we have to be persistent. A lot of time you give advice to someone, this salam he was given is like an advice. It's calling him back to the path of Allah. And the same thing, we give advice to someone, maybe they don't listen to us the first time, or they turn away from us, and you know, we still have to advise them and help them, and you know, not be, we have to do it with wisdom, as Allah says. So don't be overbearing, don't be pushy, don't do this, but just when you see the opportunity, it will be beneficial, give them some good advice. So we have to actually care for each other as brothers and sisters in faith. When we do this, we will be concerned about them, we'll want to help them, and we have to advise them when we see them in need. We should know each other very good. When we see that the person is in need of something, we should go to their aid without them having to come to tell us. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to be more caring, more kind, more patient when we are advising each other. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us become united under the banner of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad. ربنا اغفر لنا ولإخواننا الذين سبقونا بالإيمان ولا تجعل في قلوبنا غلا للذين آمنوا ربنا إنك رؤوف رحيم. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة بن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا معينا حتى تسكناه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.